typically when a 7th-year, 10-win guy returns, he should be the safe pick to be the king at QB entering the spring. And that is where we are. But it's fair to question, is that where we should be?
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily stop for all things cowboy and cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen. We're available on all of your podcasting platforms, visually as well on YouTube. Find me personally on X at AllDayOState. Today, we're partially brought to you by Game Time Tickets. Today, you need to get in on the Game Time action. Download the app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. We have a lot of things to discuss, but one of those is the quarterback competition, or seemingly what may very well shake out to be that. Now, when you look at the returning of Alan Bowman, him getting his 7th year from the NCAA, it should let us all breathe a sigh of relief. And I think that collectively it definitely does. Alan Bowman just proved that he can definitely be a hot commodity and an asset to any organization. Whenever he was thinking of his return before he got the NCAA designation on whether he was going to get his 7th year or not, there was a lot of discussions in regards to what would happen if he didn't get that 7th year. And as you noticed, Oklahoma State wasn't very open in the transfer portal market. Now, that either means that they knew or had a pretty good feeling that Alan Bowman was going to get his 7th year for sure, or they were already very high on the backups in Garret Rangel and Zane Flores that they didn't really see the need to pursue anybody. I'm a big fan of the latter. I do think that, it felt like at one point in time, Alan Bowman wasn't even going to get the 7th year. As ironic as that sounds, we had to have a little bit of help for him to get his 7th year. We ended up getting it. But before he got his 7th year, let's just view this from a common sense perspective. Him getting the job last season likely was due to some conversations between himself and Mike Gundy and Kasey Dunn in regards to being the guy that could navigate the offense and do the option routes, right? That was a major, major component there, without taking a bunch of chances, without gambling so much that it puts us in a bad spot. In the first half of the season, that's what we got out of Alan Bowman, right? Mr. Check down, Mr. Throw it out of bounds, which is okay, right? It wasn't great. It wasn't bad. We didn't have a lot of turnovers, therefore it was manageable. But then there's inevitably times in the season where you kind of need your quarterback to put the team on his shoulders and carry you to a W. There were some opportunities for Alan Bowman, in my opinion, to do that. And in those opportunities, he just didn't quite get it done, which is fine because him returning does a lot for consistency. Him returning does a lot for expectations. Because now the expectation is for Oklahoma State to be very, very good again, likely being good enough to go back to Arlington to compete for a Big 12 title if Alan Bowman is the guy. Now, some of the frustrations that people have from a film perspective is the crawdaddy stuff, right? Him bailing out of the pocket, seeing ghost, taking off, for the sidelines or to throw it out of the bounds whenever there wasn't even somebody rushing or there wasn't somebody breaking through the line. Those little things were frustrating. Him, throwing him off his back foot, frustrating. Him missing some of the open reads, that's frustrating. But some of that stuff, right, every quarterback's going to have to kind of navigate through. And him being in his 7th year, he should be able to navigate that stuff a little bit easier. Well, as the second half of the season progressed and Alan Bowman was asked to do a little bit more, that's unfortunately when you saw the interception numbers start to eclipse the touchdown numbers. Now, thankfully, he did end the season in a bowl game pretty daggone well to get his turnover numbers, right, his touchdown to turnover ratio considerably better. But we all watched it with eyeballs, and what you see on film, it does leave you a little scared. If he can make a massive advancement in the game of football in just, for a few months, He's the safe pick. That's fine. That's great. Should he enter the spring as a starter? Yes. Will he enter the spring as a starter? Yes. But this talk of a competition, from what I've gathered, is 100% real. And you got to look at it from Gundy's perspective. Gundy likes the safe bet. Gundy doesn't like to gamble a whole lot, right? He likes to go with the veterans. He likes to go with the safe bet, safe pick, the guy who's not going to turn it over as often and put your team in precarious positions. But the more Alan Bowman tried to do, the more he was asked to do, the more the turnovers and the mechanical issues started to pop up. Now, Garret Rangel, for whatever reason, there's a decent amount of the fan base that still is not sold on him. That's fine. You know my position. Am I partial to Garret Rangel? Yeah, absolutely. But if you look at the partiality, it started because of film, right? And thankfully, there's a decent amount of people, and there's people that I had conversations with that played quarterback in the Big 12, played quarterback in the SEC in regards to Alan Bowman, in conjunction to conversations about Garret Rangel. And the common consensus is he does throw a better ball. He's mechanically a little bit more sound. He doesn't have all the bad habits that Alan Bowman has when, getting flushed out of the pocket and things of that nature. He was able to adjust to the option route concepts and learn them on the fly fairly quickly. And then the progression physically was massive for him. He needed to put on 15, 16 pounds. He ended up putting on 18 pounds. He needed to get a little bit faster. He shaved 2/10 of a second off of his 40. He needed to get better on the out routes to get a little bit more velocity on the ball so he could surpass Alan Bowman in that department. He was able to do that as well. So if you're to check boxes, Garret Rangel, this is what you've done. This is what I need you to do. This is what I need you to be doing. Garret Rangel did all that. So again, the ceiling is very high. And then when you look at Zane Flores is a rare individual because Zane Flores walked into the building at 6'3", 207 pounds. He walked into the building as one of the greatest, actually, statistically, the greatest quarterback in the history of the state of Nebraska. He's a gamer. He can take off and run, and he likes running over people. He's a rare bird. When it comes to getting some scout team style of looks, whenever you're in a competition for a 3 deep, you don't traditionally want to go be the scout team guy. You traditionally don't want to go over there and bang heads with everybody. Zane Flores is not traditional in that regard. Zane Flores will hold his hand up highly and say, I'll do it, coach. I'll play that guy. You want me to be this quarterback? You want me to be a running back? You want me to be an H-back? Whatever, whenever, however. Do I need to be mobile? Do I need to be running? From a scout team perspective, Zane Flores was open and willing to jump up and do all of that. And y'all know I love J.W. Walsh because of that gamer mentality, that I'm not going to lose thought process. That's what you want out of your quarterback. You want confidence. You want ability. He comes with the size of the physical specimen that Garret Rangel did not have. So Zane Flores came in with the size that Garret Rangel is trying to get to, but Garret Rangel came in with more of the IQ understanding of physiologically, mechanically, how to get things done. He's had to improve his mechanics a little bit, right? That's going to be an emphasis right here, right now, this spring. I'm excited to see what shakes out. I do think Bowman will begin the spring as the guy. But if Bowman does what he did last year, which is throw some picks on a decent amount of the times he tried to push the ball deep, and Garret Rangel does the same thing he did last year, which is not throw those picks with some more risks, this could be a big reward season for Garret Rangel. And I do think that, Zane Flores has got a little catching up to do to even catch Garret Rangel or Alan Bowman. But physically, he's already there. Mentally, he already gets it. Our offense is not extremely complex. I mean, it's pretty simplistic. If Zane Flores can get the option route stuff down, and he can kind of learn to incorporate his athleticism into the offense, but not get too loosey-goosey like Spencer Sanders, where he's wanting to run all the time. This spring is going to be great for whomever comes out on top. If it's Alan Bowman, then that means we shouldn't have the crawdaddy bailing 17 yards to throw it in the stands, Alan Bowman, anymore. And if that happens, then yeah, he's taking the next step. He can lead us to more than 10 wins. If Garret Rangel puts on another 5-10 pounds, gets a little bit faster, finishes the top of the drop mechanically that he's looking for, and he can take the deep shot chances and hit the windows that maybe some of the other quarterbacks can't, he should excel. So there we've had a look at the quarterbacks as they come in. But again, this isn't coach speak. There is going to be a competition because towards the end of the season, I think Mike Gundy even witnessed when we ask Alan Bowman to do a little bit too much, he throws it to the other team a little bit too much. Because of that, I think the door was opened for Garret Rangel. And that also opened the door a little bit for Zane Flores to do some stuff. All right, y'all. Real quick, we need to talk about the fact that you need to get hooked up with Game Time tickets today because stressing over tickets and events is completely unnecessary, right? The pre-planning for flights and hotels and drives and rentals and whatever, that's already difficult. Don't make buying tickets on top of it even more difficult. That's why you need to download Game Time, because whether it be sports, music, comedy, or theater events near you, they've got the best views from the seat before you purchase, the best price guarantee, and the best thing is they take all the guesswork out of you buying tickets. Whether it's last-minute tickets, flash zone deals, easy to find and easy to buy tickets for all kinds of events in your area. With the lowest price guarantee and event cancellation protection on top of job loss protection, it doesn't get better than Game Time. Y'all know my favorite part is seeing the view of the seat before you purchase, so there's no hanky-panky of you buying a seat in a section and then being told actually you're in another section. None of that. And the Game Time guarantee means you will always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same row, in the same section for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Find exclusive flash deals and sponsor deals on tickets for a multitude of sporting events, comedy, and theater. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time right now. You need to download the Game Time app. Make sure you use the code LOCKEDON, all one word, locked on, for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. All right, so when we look at the idea that this new helmet system that they kind of tinkered with in some of the bowl games, it could change a lot of this quarterback competition in general, right? But when we're talking about the quarterback competition, one of the layers to that can always enhance things is the wide receiver. But let's face it, every quarterback knows that the better the dude you have on the outside, the better you're inherently going to look. Last season, we had the benefit of the emergence of Leon Johnson III. After we had some guys go down, we had to scrap the idea for a red shirt, and then all of a sudden, he's up there catching 150 yards and multiple touchdowns and doing the daggone thing. So because of the emergence of Leon Johnson III last season, I think it allowed some of the freshmen, some of the underclassmen, to get the work that they needed to not be thrust into a position that they may not be 100% ready for. Now, when you look at the main three wide receivers, of course, we already know that's going to be DeJon Stribling, Brennan Presley, and likely Rashad Owens. Now, I say likely because, guys, if Talon Shetron is healthy, I do think he's a little bit better than Rashad Owens. Now, Rashad Owens is a beast. Rashad Owens is a dude that you want on the field 24/7 because he handles the wide receiver position like a defensive back, right? As far as physicality is concerned, he wants to mix it up. He wants everything to get a little bit muggy and nasty, but it's not like he's going to, elevate and high top 24/7. I don't even necessarily think that's his bread and butter. But Talon Shetron can do a lot of the things that Rashad Owens physically just cannot quite do. So although they provide a much needed spark, right, for, a multitude of reasons, collectively, when you look at both of these dudes, they both should compete for a lot of time in this season. But behind them, you got to have more dudes. Now, we saw in the bowl game, there was a wide receiver that got a little bit of extra PT, and he actually did get a pass thrown to him. It was sailed a little bit out of bounds. So you expect him to come back and have a big year. And by him, we're talking about Cameron Hurd. And you guys know I've wailed about Cameron Hurd for the same reasons I've wailed about Cameron Epps, because he played quarterback, and making that transition from the quarterback position, if you athletically have all the intangibles to make that successful, you see the field a little bit differently. You just do. You see the game speed a little bit differently. You see the progression of events and the progression of what the defenses are trying to do a little bit better than everybody else, right? It's only natural. So after Rashad Owens and Talon Shetron figure out who's going to shake out the wide receiver 3, we got to look at who's next. On top of Cameron Hurd, because you guys already know I'm a big believer in Jalen Pope. I actually thought we would see a little bit more of Jalen Pope, but again, this is what springtime is to provide. Springtime is to provide opportunities for guys like a Jalen Pope, like a Cameron Hurd, like a Cale Cabbiness. I mean, we all know what Cabby can do. If Cabby's healthy, he's going to be instrumental in that wide receiver 4 conversation. Okay? But I want to talk about a couple other guys that should surprise some people this year. Number 1 being Tykie Andrews. Tykie Andrews is a 6'1", 190-pound wide receiver from Enid, Oklahoma, that was coached by a friend of the show and former Cowboy in Rashawn Woods. For those reasons and the fact that he can absolutely get off the line and go, it's going to be big for him. Not to mention, I do think that he's going to get to learn a lot this year from Virginia Tech transfer Da'Wain Lofton, right? I think Da'Wain Lofton is going to be able to help Tykie Andrews, because I do see their games fairly similar. And the beauty there is Tykie Andrews is significantly bigger than Lofton coming over from Virginia Tech. So what we lost in Arlen Bruce, we should be able to gain at least from a teaching perspective into Da'Wain Lofton. And that should translate very well for somebody like a Tykie Andrews. I do think it'll translate well for Cameron Hurd and Jalen Pope as well. But Tykie Andrews is somebody I think we should focus on this spring as somebody to watch out for. Another one of those guys that I think we should pay a lot of attention to this spring is going to be Mason Gilkey. Typically, Oklahoma State has had I don't want to say a plethora, but we've had our fair share of 6'3", 6'4" style wide receivers. Now we have that in DeJon Stribling. We had that in Leon Johnson III. We had it in Tay Martin, so on and so forth. We have that again in Mason Gilkey. If Mason Gilkey can hit the weight room and beef up a little bit more, I think he could potentially be looking at a good season for himself. A season in which he carves himself a nice little role. And let's face facts here, guys. Some of these guys that are competing for more reps a wide receiver are going to be doing so based on the amount of success that we have points-wise. So the objective would be pretty reminiscent of the 2011 year with Brandon Weeden and Justin Blackman. If you can put up 50 points in the first half, do it. Because then it allows, A, a lot of people to stay more healthy than normal, and B, it allows guys like these to get real in-game, on-field experience in moments that matter. Because you can't replicate the game speed in game time. So just like we've had the emergence of some guys over the years that have big springs, right? CJ Tate obviously recently comes to mind. Langston Anderson recently comes to mind. So having a big spring doesn't always directly translate to having a big year. But those are some dudes that I think we should pay attention to in the spring, because that competition for the wide receiver 4 or 5 spot, it's going to be must-see TV. The thing of it is, we might not get to see a whole lot of it. So stay tuned. We'll continue to crank out some of this stuff, have some fun, distribute the information, and you talk about the good stuff. Oh, another good thing before we get to this fun little ad here, before we talk about how these new helmets and all that conversation could change, you know, what's really happening from a competitive standpoint, we got to talk about FanDuel. Okay? It's capitalization season. So it's time for you to capitalize on your money-making capabilities as well. Guys, you already know it's America's #1 sportsbook betting partner, and you already know it's for a reason. You also know that basketball season is in thick now because football's over, but it's okay because new customers get $150 back in bonus bets with any $5 winning bet. All you got to do, throw down a $5 holla and it be a winner, and you get $150 back in bonus bets. You got to make bucks since basketball's out here shooting buckets. You can bet on a multitude of things in your favorite NBA players and teams, from quick bets to same-game parlays, exclusive player props, over, under, who's going to make the next bucket or who's going to win the whole daggone thing or this particularly close daggone game. It's $150 back in bonus bets if your bet wins. So get hooked up today with FanDuel.com/lockedon. Take your next shot. Make sure it's your best shot, though, with FanDuel by going to FanDuel.com/lockedon, because you already know FanDuel is the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. All right, so we've covered some of the wide receivers that could potentially help out in this this competition that we will, in fact, have from the quarterback position. But another interesting tidbit is going to be the conversations that the coordinators can now have directly with the quarterbacks and directly with, somebody on the defensive side of the ball. Traditionally, that's going to be a middle linebacker. And since we have the best middle linebacker in the Big 12, the best linebacker in the Big 12, of course, he's going to be that guy, right? In the NFL, when you watch the Hard Knocks with Malcolm Rodriguez, they talked about him potentially being a green dot guy. Well, that's the same concept here. And where that should be applicable for the quarterback competition is when you have a veteran like Alan Bowman, it might not take a whole lot for him to be reminded of what to do and it be able to sink in very, very quickly. Just like on the opposite end of the spectrum, it should be a little bit easier on a really young guy to have somebody in his ear that can help him point out some things and distinguish between some things and give him some pointers right before the snap happens. But then at the same time, right, this is a question I have for you guys. Let me know down in the comments section. Do you think that the communication now being directly orchestrated between the quarterback and the booth or the linebackers in the booth, do you think that's going to be great for progress, or do you think it could hinder progress? The reason I ask is because you can typically see, right, in like, we'll use 7-on-7 as an example, right, since that's what I travel and cover doing. When you see coaches that are basically telling the quarterback to hit this guy right now throw it, now do it, now hit him, look for this crosser, I don't love it. Right? And there are coaches that will, in 7-on-7, they'll stand right behind the quarterback live during the play, and they'll say, hey, hit X, or hit Z, or hit, Tom, or whoever. And I make notes of it, right? A lot of analysts make notes of that. Because although it, might help your quarterback in the moment, depending on the age, at some point in time, you're not helping them. Right? You're not allowing them to diagnose and dissect and distinguish what he needs to do. So from the same vein, could it not be somewhat detrimental to some to have somebody in their ear? Right? There's some people that's not how their brain operates. It will be a distraction. So you don't want to over communicate, but you also don't want to under communicate. So it could be very beneficial to somebody like an Alan Bowman, right? But it also could be a hindrance as well, because he does have some muscle memory built in. So sometimes maybe his muscle memory and his brain don't need to get linked up or mixed up together. Same with a young quarterback. Would it be beneficial at times to help them with some of the progressions and what to look for and who to watch for and who's going to blitz and yada, yada? Yeah, sure. But it also can be detrimental to their development as well. So who does this benefit the most? Does it benefit the veterans that just need a little bit of extra? Or does it more or less benefit the younger guys that need a little extra guidance and a little extra direction while they're on the field? And then on the flip side of the football field, the defensive side of the ball, I think this could change some things for a multitude of positions, really. Like the guy that's in charge is typically the middle linebacker. But let's say in Oklahoma State's position, right? Let's say that Justin Wright's playing outside linebacker. Yeah. And let's say that Nick Martin gets hurt. Does middle linebacker number 2 automatically come in with the earpiece? And does he automatically assume the role of what Nick Martin was doing? Right? I mean, if your middle linebacker number 2 is like absolutely Devin Harper level certified, then sure. Yeah, that's easy. But what if your backup linebacker is like a Gabe Brown? Talented, understands it, gets it, but maybe not be able to vocalize everything as fast as you need him to during live fire exercises. In that scenario, would it not maybe be more advantageous for Kendall Daniels to be that guy that calls everything out, that gets all the shifts and all that? This is going to change the game a little bit. I'm going to be very curious as to see, kind of how. Who does this benefit the most? How is this going to be utilized the best? Because, again, there's going to be teams that do it different ways. There's going to be teams probably that have a set number 1 guy with the headset and microphone type thing, and a number 2 no matter what. Or some places could say, well, it's always going to be the middle linebacker no matter who it is. It's going to be interesting. And not everybody's going to be able to be equipped to handle that, right? You're going to have guys that are middle linebackers their entire lives, all the way through high school, all the way to college, that find that such a distraction that they moved to outside linebacker. And vice versa. There's going to be guys that played outside linebacker forever that were just never super vocal, and they didn't really want to be the guy to move everybody and shift everybody and yell at everybody. But now maybe with the headset, it changes their perspective on, being that guy anyways. Again, I think it's going to be interesting. And I think it will change the dynamics of some of these competitions 100%. I'm just not sure who it's going to benefit and who's going to hurt the most. So let me know down in the comment section what you guys think, my podcasting people. Jump onto YouTube, leave a comment, or just leave your review. Hit the stars if you're getting star treatment. All righty, y'all. So we're going to have for this one right here. I love you. As always, God bless. Go Pokes. And thank you very much for tuning in. Make this your first listen here on Locked On Oklahoma State. You could be anywhere. So happy that you choose to be here. Like, comment, share, subscribe, leave a review, hit the stars, do the daggone thing. My regulators, we need to start regulating and building some more. All righty, y'all. You know the drill. That's that. So later, taters.